Hey. Alright, so we're continuing our reading of Martin Heidegger's Metaphysics, who was a German philosopher. He's quite interesting dude. Alright, so we're on paragraph 105, page 152. This well-worn reading must be mentioned here expressly, not only because it works its mischief in all historical presentations of Greek philosophy, not only because modern philosophy itself interpreted its prehistory for itself in this way, but above all because the predominance of the opinions we have mentioned has made it difficult for us to understand the authentic truth of that primally Greek statement of Parmenides. Only when we succeed in doing so can we gauge what a change has taken place, not only since modernity, but since late antiquity and since the rise of Christianity in the spiritual history of the West, and this means its authentic history. Okay, and there's a German phrase here, Tu gar auto nonen esten tekai and I. Well, that might be Greek, I don't know. He doesn't tell me. In order to understand this statement, we must know three things. 1. What do auto and te kai mean? Tell me, I don't know. What does neo mean? Don't know. What does enai mean? I don't know. Tell me, Ari. As regards the third question, we seem to have been sufficiently instructed by what was said earlier about fusses. But the knowing, so this is spelled Noein, named in the second question, is obscure. Of course, Heidegger mentioned something obscure, right? At least if we do not translate the verb right away as thinking, and define it in the logical sense as assertion that analyzes. Okay. Knowing means to apprehend. Okay, so means knowing. To apprehend. Nous means apprehending, in a double sense that intrinsically belongs together. Well, I mean, one is present, one is future and moving. On one hand, to apprehend Verenheim means to take in Hinnehem, to let something come to oneself, namely, what shows itself, what appears. On the other hand, to apprehend means to interrogate a witness, to call him to account, and thus to comprehend the state of affairs, to determine and set fast how things are going and how things stand. Yeah. Apprehending in this double sense denotes a process of letting things come to oneself, in which one does not simply take things in, but rather takes up a position to receive what shows itself. I mean, apprehending leads to apprehension indeed, and it is coming to yourself. You don't let everything come in because it's still moving. It does take a position that will allow you to receive more information about said thing. So yeah, it does show itself in that way, in itself, yeah. When troops take up a position to receive the enemy, then they want to meet the enemy that is coming towards them, and meet him in such a way that they at least bring him to a halt, a stand. Noan involves this receptive bringing to a stand of that which appears. Okay, that's a good example. Good metaphor there. What Parmenides' statement is saying about apprehending is that it is the same as being. A coming to. Okay, alright. What thus come to the clarification of our first question. What is meant by to auto the same? Tell me, Heidegger. Whatever is all the same to us makes no difference to us. Whatever is the same to us makes no difference to us. Yeah. It's all the same to me, right, as we say. It is one and the same, essentially. But what sense of oneness is meant by this? Well, it's all the same to me, meaning makes no difference. If it makes no difference, then it means you're neutral and indifferent. But what sense of oneness is meant by this? It is not up to us to determine this however we like. Instead, when we are dealing with the saying of being, oneness must be understood in the sense that Parmenides thinks in the word hen. Oops. We know that oneness here is not empty one in the one sameness, not self-sameness as merely indifferent all the sameness. See, he says, okay, so I see what he did. We know that oneness here, not self-sameness and not as merely indifferent as well. Okay, all the sameness. Oneness is the belonging together of what strives in opposition. This is what is originally unified. What does Parmenides say tekai? Because being and thinking are unified, in the sense of striving in opposition, that is, are the same in their belonging together. How are we to understand this? Let us base our answer on being, which, as fusses, has become clearer to us in various respects. Being means standing in the light. Appearing, stepping into unconcealment. Okay. Where this happens, that is, where being holds sway, apprehending holds sway too, and happens too, as belonging to being. Okay, I'm following. Apprehending is to the receptive bringing to a stand of the constant that shows itself in itself. Apprehending, bringing to a stand forth. It's constant, shows itself, and it's in itself. Yeah, I can follow. Parmenides expresses the same statement still more sharply in fragment 8, verse 34. Tautun dies noen tekai, nunkenen esti noema. Okay, I think this is Greek. Apprehending and that for the sake of which apprehending happens are the same. Apprehending is this, it happens for the same sake, and they're the same. Apprehending happens for the sake of being. Yeah, maybe because if you are going to be or comprehend being, you have to apprehend it first. Okay, I get it. Being essentially unfolds as appearing. An unconcealment so that you can actually grasp it, understand it. As stepping into unconcealment, only if unconcealment happens. Only if self-opening happens. Yeah, self-opening, you can't open unless you're unconcealed. And you can't unconceal unless you're appearing. And you can't start appearing unless you're apprehending. I get it. In its two versions, Parmenides' statement gives us a still more original insight into the essence of phusis. Apprehending belongs to phusis. The sway of phusis shares its sway with apprehending. So, apprehending is inherently with phusis, and sway is shared with phusis, and sway leads to apprehending. Apprehending and phusis belonging. Very deep section, family. Very deep. Very deep.